From Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana, Siddiqui. First, the headlines. Muslim health experts support Dr. Fauci's call to maintain mask mandates. Race excluded as White House rolls out climate justice screening tool. Kashmiri women remain resilient in the face of constant suffering. Sikh-Muslim relations grow stronger as Sikhs renovate more than 200 dilapidated mosques. Study finds Islamophobia becoming normalized in Dutch society. Chief Executive of International Rescue Committee says Western countries have inflicted catastrophic damage on Afghanistan. Our top story tonight. Many U.S. states are relaxing indoor and school mask mandates. But health professionals warn the danger isn't over yet as new variants of COVID-19 continue to spread nationwide. Among the first to loosen indoor mask restrictions are New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware, Rhode Island, Illinois, New York, and Massachusetts. California also plans to follow suit, but their schools will still require masks. As well, on March 31st, Oregon will ease its mask mandates. New York and California are among the top 5 states with the most COVID-related deaths. Dr. Anthony Fauci, President Joe Biden's chief medical advisor, said taking masks off of kids in school is risky. Islamic Medical Association of North America, or IMANA President MARIUM HUSAIN, agreed on the need for caution. IMANA advocates for mask wearing and getting fully vaccinated to slow the spread of COVID-19. New York City Mayor Eric Adams and New York Governor Kathy Hochul on Friday unveiled a plan to make the city's subway system safer. Adams, a former New York City Transit Police officer, announced a plan to remove homeless and mentally ill people from the subway system. The move is in response to a deadly incident last month. It involved a homeless man with a history of mental illness pushing a woman to her death in front of a subway train. Just last Thursday, a homeless man stabbed a passenger in an unprovoked attack. The safety measure is a joint initiative between New York City and the state of New York. The White House has released a screening tool to help identify disadvantaged communities plagued by environmental hazards. But the administration won't include race as a factor in deciding where to allocate resources. Officials told reporters Friday excluding race will make projects less likely to draw legal challenges and will be easier to defend. This is despite the fact that the White House acknowledges race has been a major factor in terms of who experiences environmental injustice. Members of the environmental justice community harshly challenged the decision. President Biden has made combating climate change a priority of his administration. His executive order sets a goal that 40% of overall benefits from climate and environment investments would go to disadvantaged communities. Britain's largest police force is facing accusations of racism after at least 3 Muslim officers made a formal complaint against their bosses. Officers with the Metropolitan Police complained they were subjected to Islamophobic abuse at their station canteen. A Muslim police officer who failed to take part in a voluntary team-building exercise on religious grounds said he was ordered to wash squad cars. When he refused, his sergeant posted a reprimand in his employment file. A health and safety rule was adopted at the North London station. It requires Muslim officers to put their names on a board if they took a prayer break, even if it was in the building's multi-faith prayer room. The complaint comes days after Met Commissioner Cressida Dick resigned after London Mayor Sadiq Khan lost confidence in her leadership. A petition with thousands of signatures is seeking justice for a Muslim student in New Zealand whose hijab was ripped off in an alleged hate crime. 17-year-old HODA al-Jama'ah suffered a concussion last Wednesday after 3 girls at the Otago Girls High School in Dunedin removed her hijab. No teachers came to her aid. She said the girls took off her hijab and filmed her. That video has been shared with boys and girls at the school. Al-Jama'ah said the perpetrators attempted to do the same to 2 of her friends. Police said they have identified the girls involved and have launched an investigation. A Palestinian woman is calling for the trial of 6 Israeli officers who she alleges sexually assaulted her in 2015, Arab 48 reports. An investigation into the conduct of 3 workers with Israel's internal security agency Shin Bet, as well as 3 army officers, was closed about 10 months ago. Authorities cited a lack of evidence, despite some officers admitting to the allegations under questioning. Shin Bet said the woman's identity has been withheld due to security concerns. A Shin Bet commander ordered 2 female soldiers to conduct a body search. The soldiers removed the Palestinian woman's clothes and probed her private parts. Later, the woman was sentenced to 2 years in prison after being convicted of minor offenses. A 51-year-old Kashmiri widow tailors a traditional long, loose shirt and baggy trousers for a customer. Shahina Akhtar keeps busy with tailoring at her small home in Srinagar, the capital of Indian-administered Kashmir. Akhtar lives alone in the congested poor neighborhood of Khwaja Bazaar. She has developed many health problems since the tragic death of her husband, Ghulam Hassan, in an explosion, and her daughter's marriage. But Akhtar is determined to earn a living and not to rely on others for financial assistance. Healthcare professionals say the decades-long conflict in Kashmir has had a significant impact on the region's women. Hundreds of Kashmiri women like Akhtar, who are fending for themselves, receive some form of assistance, such as rations from local charitable organizations. India has lodged a diplomatic protest with Singapore over Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong's recent remarks. Lee said almost half the Indian parliament members have criminal charges pending against them, including charges of rape and murder. This issue comes more than a week after New Delhi summoned the South Korean ambassador over Hyundai Motor Company's tweets. The ambassador's Twitter account posted tweets on Kashmir Solidarity Day to show support for people in the India-administered region. We're bringing more news stories after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Friends, our world is pulling together like never before. We're making huge sacrifices to keep one another safe. Scientists are working non-stop to develop COVID-19 vaccines and treatments. A vaccine will get our economies moving. It will tell our loved ones we're safe again. But we have challenges we must address. Right now, huge pharmaceutical companies are keeping the vaccine research a secret. They're deciding how many vaccines get made, how much to charge for them, and who gets vaccinated. This will no doubt leave billions of people behind. Pharma companies are putting profit, not people, first. Yet, billions of dollars of taxpayers' money is funding their work. We cannot let the CEOs of a handful of pharmaceutical companies decide our future. We need a vaccine that everyone can have free of charge, no matter where you live or whether you're rich or you're poor. We need companies to share all their research so we can make enough safe vaccines for everyone. We need a vaccine owned by all of us. To end this COVID-19 pandemic, we need to pull together once more.
Mr. Speaker, if I decide to wear a turban, or you decide to wear a cross, or he decides to wear a kippah or a skull cap, or she decides to wear a hijab or a burqa, does that mean that it is open season for right honourable members of this House to make derogatory and divisive remarks about our appearance? For those of us who from a young age have had to endure and face up to being called names such as Towelhead or Taliban, or coming from Bongo land, we can appreciate full well the hurt and pain felt by already vulnerable Muslim women when they are described as looking like bank robbers and letterboxes. So rather than hide behind sham and whitewash investigations, when will the Prime Minister finally apologise for his derogatory and racist remarks? Racist remarks, Mr. Speaker, which have led to a spike in hate crime. And given the increasing prevalence of such incidents within his party, when will the Prime Minister finally order an inquiry into Islamophobia within the Conservative Party, something which he and his Chancellor promised on national television?
When India and Pakistan gained freedom from the British nearly 75 years ago, the Muslim population in Indian Punjab drastically reduced from 33% to 0.5%. Most mosques were either destroyed or abandoned. Now, since Pakistan opened a special corridor for Sikhs to visit their holy sites in Pakistan, the goodwill is being returned. In a number of villages, the majority Sikh population is helping revive mosques left abandoned 7 decades ago due to the migration or killing of Muslims. Last June, a Sikh family from Jitwal Kalan village donated its ancestral land to build a mosque for a small number of Muslim families living in the Sikh-dominated village. The mosque is now in the final stages of construction. It is one of more than 200 mosques being renovated in the region. Malians gathered in the capital Bamako to celebrate the withdrawal of French troops. Some demonstrators carried placards with messages such as "France is a terrorist nation." Mali's government on Friday asked France to withdraw its forces from the Sahel state without delay. It called into question Paris's plans to pull out over several months. French President Emmanuel Macron on Thursday announced he was withdrawing his nation's troops. Mali has also asked a smaller European Takuba group of special forces created in 2020 to depart quickly. Muslims in the Dutch capital Amsterdam face increasing Islamophobia, according to a new study. The survey, which was conducted by the Amsterdam municipality, found that Muslims living there regularly face discrimination, reports the English-language newspaper NL Times. Researchers found respondents believe the normalization of Islamophobia is fueled by the increasing influence of extreme-right politics in the Netherlands. According to the report, for most respondents, the normalization of Islamophobia was a major problem in their lives, which they can't defend themselves against. Participants in the study also said the media's negative coverage of Islam and Muslims, as well as incendiary preachers who harm society by magnifying the differences between secular and Muslim Amsterdam, also play a role. Russia successfully test-launched hypersonic and cruise missiles, as well as nuclear submarines at sea and land-based targets during exercises on Saturday, the Kremlin said. This comes amid tensions over the country's possible invasion of Ukraine, according to American government sources. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said Russian forces were beginning to uncoil and move closer to the Ukrainian border. Although Austin said an invasion was not inevitable, he also noted that the nuclear exercises were raising the world's concerns. David Miliband, former UK Foreign Secretary and Chief Executive of the International Rescue Committee, said the West has inflicted catastrophic damage on Afghanistan. The West has also harmed its own reputation by imposing a policy of starvation on the Central Asian nation, he said. Miliband has been among those lobbying U.S. President Joe Biden's administration and the World Bank to release cash for humanitarian aid and to start rebuilding Afghanistan's economy. He warned the crisis is so deep the UN's appeal for $4 billion this year will likely rise to $10 billion next year. That funding will be addressed at a pledging conference next month. The World Bank board may meet in March to release as much as over $1.3 billion that it so far has refused to release. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Our fellow Americans.
Right now, the COVID-19 vaccines are available to millions of Americans.
And soon, they will be available to everyone.
The science is clear. These vaccines will protect you and those you love from this dangerous and deadly disease.
They could save your life.
So we urge you to get vaccinated when it's available to you.
That's the first step to ending the pandemic and moving our country forward. It's up to you.
I am what hunger looks like in America. I am an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for the last day of school. Because this may be the last time I'll have lunch. Till September.
I am a single father of 2 who works 3 part-time jobs, and that's still not enough to put food on the table.
I was created by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back. It's time for our in-depth analysis segment. Let's watch.
Thank you, Samana. On average, in America, still 2,000 people or more are dying every day. But people are getting sick and tired of measurement to protect us. We have truckers in Ottawa, Canada finally being forced out of the siege of the capital after 3 weeks. And now the British Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has announced that all measurement regarding COVID will be lifted, while their queen herself has tested positive for that. And Dr. Fauci is being attacked left and right. But Muslim physicians in America are standing up for Dr. Fauci to asking people to be careful. And we have with us the president of the Islamic Medical Association of North America, Dr. MARIUM HUSAIN. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much for having us.
Welcome to Muslim Network TV. So, you know, the Idaho Lieutenant Governor, he says about Fauci, I will lock him up. So people are getting frustrated. So why are you sticking out your neck for Dr. Fauci here?
Well, I think I would say that we're sticking our neck out for the data and the science that we have, and that Dr. Fauci and the dozens, hundreds of scientists that he represents and the efforts that they are representing from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and from the administration itself, they are representing the science that we have and the data that we have. So we would just be putting, as you said, our necks out for the data and the science and what that is telling us about the virus.
So what are the measurements which you are recommending people need to still keep in place?
Yeah, it's a great question. So as you said, right, that it's definitely a hard situation right now. And so every recommendation is going to be specific to the location where people are, right? And what is the situation there. But in general, what we know, what the data has shown to us is that masking, getting vaccinations, social distancing are very, very effective tools to help prevent the spread of COVID.
Okay, so what would you tell a British Prime Minister whose queen just tested positive and he's announced that he's lifting all restrictions?
Right. Yeah. So I would never put myself in a position to necessarily be, I guess we're giving recommendations to the prime minister unless he asks, of course. But I think, as we've been talking about, right, is what is the data showing? That even someone who has as much access to medical care and services as the Queen, even she has contracted the virus, right? And so I think what that shows, again, just talking about data, is that this virus is still very much out there. We do have a lot of information on how to control it if we want to listen to that data.
Well, your data seems to be going to give us another booster shot. Is that coming?
You know, I don't believe that they have made final recommendations on that just yet. I know that in some certain populations of people, it might be indicated, especially those who are immunocompromised or who their titers of their antibody protection or how much, you know, the antibody is in their system. If that becomes less with time, there's a possibility that may come to, you know, the future, but nothing that's been confirmed just yet.
So people, you know, it has been more than 2 years of all the things which we are doing. How long do you think we'll have to keep doing these things?
Yeah, it's a great question, Amjad. So I wish I had that crystal ball, right, that we could give that answer. I think a lot of it, to be honest with you, is going to come down to our individual and population behaviors, meaning what are we all going to do individually and what are we going to do as a society? One thing that we've seen is that if you don't stop the spread of the virus early enough, that the more humans it goes in between, the more it mutates, and then we get more variants. And so I think as people become more frustrated, and understandably so, and want to mix it more, right, and not necessarily social distance, there's a very good chance that we may continue to see this virus pop up, but the hope will be is that it won't cause as much death and it won't make people as sick to overwhelm the healthcare system. So I won't make any predictions right now until we have, you know, some more forecasting data. But there's a very good chance that we could still be dealing with this virus, but I hope that it's not as severe as it was 2 years ago.
A couple of days ago, several studies come out and they were saying there is already a mutant which has reached 4% of America, which is faster spreading than the earlier one, but also is more lethal than the recent dominant version. So what are the conversation around that?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is going to be waiting for some of that data to come out and seeing what the trends have been in other parts of the world where we have seen more of that variant. You know, as much as we say to follow the data and the science, I think sometimes what people may forget is that we have to wait for this. Sometimes we have to wait for the science to catch up and for the data to reveal itself to us. And that doesn't mean that science is wrong or that the data is wrong. It just means that we need some more time. And so that's why some of these measures are still in place to try to help us catch up to what the data is going to show to us, right? And so that we don't fall behind like we have in the last year as well. So inshallah, more of that data will come out, that we'll have some more information about what does this variant actually look like. Is it going to be something like Delta, or is it going to be something like Omicron, for example? And so hopefully we just have to wait, you know, to see what the data is going to show to us, and then hopefully inshallah we can give people some more answers then.
Well, some people are talking about learning to live with COVID. Do you think masking is going to remain a part of American culture in which anybody, whether they have COVID or not, they put some mask on them? I mean, some other cultures I have seen for 40, 50 years ago, whenever people have some cold, they put a mask on their face. Do you think there is a possibility of that culture?
I agree with you. I think there is a possibility. Yeah, to give the short answer, what actually we saw with the 1918 flu pandemic, right, a little more than 100 years ago, is that for several years people were wearing masks off and on, and then we see that the trend started to stop, right? Once we learned more about the virus and once we were able to stay on top of it with flu vaccines, right? And so I think at least in the short term, this will be a part of the culture right now. If anything, again, just to try to help prevent the spread of the virus and to prevent more variants from being created.
We at Muslim Network TV were interviewing a Muslim leader in UK, and she said that 50% of all physicians who have died in UK because of trying to save lives of other people were Muslims. That was awfully extraordinary numbers. You being the president of Islamic Medical Association of North America, what is your estimate here? Is it Muslim are disproportionately impacted by the COVID?
That's a great question. I don't believe we have that data to say that it's necessarily us being more or disproportionately being affected by this. But I think, again, as you had mentioned, right, but alhamdulillah, with our organization, many of our people being physicians as well, they are on the front lines that are dealing with this. And so they are very vulnerable to the impacts of the virus and just trying to do their jobs, right? Just with trying to help take care of people. So I think that, alhamdulillah, because, part of our community has been able to come to those positions, right, in the healthcare field, not just with physicians, but nurse practitioners, physician assistants, respiratory therapists, et cetera, that they are all at increased risk. And so the thing that just hurts, any death hurts you the most, but people who are trying to help others who end up succumbing to such a virus like this, that the spread can be slowed down with simple measures like masks or social distancing or vaccines. It's just very heartbreaking, whether Muslim or not.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. MARIUM HUSAIN. Dr. MARIUM HUSAIN is president of the Islamic Medical Association of North America. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that.
And thank you, guys. Yeah, we really appreciate these opportunities for public health education. So thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Back to you, Samana.
Thank you. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.